Watch me as I take this ordinary white tray and turn it into something absolutely gorgeous. It's fun and easy to do, so stay tuned. You gotta watch this. Today we're going to start a project that is going to be an epoxy tray with flower petals and rose gold flake in it. It is from a friend of mine's wedding, and she received this tray as a gift, and she wanted to be able to incorporate some of her flowers and the leaves and the rose gold from the wedding into the tray. So what we're going to do is start with a coat on the bottom of this that's just going to be a base layer, and we are going to use a water method to figure out how much we needed in here. What I came up with was a total of 1.5 cups, A and B mixed together. Okay, so what I did was I used a measuring cup. I poured the water in there just to make sure that it covered the bottom. And then I poured that back in, divided it in half, made sure that it was going to be exactly what we need. Because I need so much today, I'm just gonna pour it directly out of my jugs rather than my smaller bottles. Now this is gonna take us a while to mix. All right, I have my A and B. I'm going to mix them together. And I'm gonna grab my gloves real quick. Should have put those on originally. I hate wearing these because they're too big for me, but I have a hard time finding them in a smaller size. All right, so now this is going to take about 15 minutes to mix. And now that the epoxy is ready, I'm pouring this into the bottom of the tray. I am trying to get as much out as possible because it does kind of tend to stick to the sides of the containers. And as soon as I've got all this out, I'm going to pick up the tray and I'm going to tilt it to all four corners, because we need to make sure that this small amount of epoxy hits all four corners and is completely covering the bottom of the tray. But being careful that as I am tilting this, I'm not getting epoxy up the sides of this tray, because we don't know how much epoxy we're going to end up using. So I don't want to have this climbing the sides of the tray and then having it be there after we're completely done with this. It won't look very nice. Now we're going to hit it with the heat gun to make sure that we get any bubbles out of the surface. All right, so now what we're gonna do is make sure that this is a level surface. So I'm getting out my level and I'm gonna check it on the front, the back, and then across the middle. And now I'm gonna get something to cover this so that we can keep as much dust out of it as possible. And now we're gonna let this sit so that the epoxy can set up. Good morning, everyone. We are just getting our tray uncovered from the first coat of epoxy. Wow, I think it looks awesome. You can see a really pretty even coat. It looks amazing. Okay, so my friend had mentioned yesterday that he thought that she might like to have a T for their last name in the middle before we put the rest of the flowers and stuff on it. So I went ahead and on my Cricut found a really pretty T, and I just cut this out of paper for right now. I've sent him a photo to see what he thinks. I think it looks beautiful. Fancy, but not too crazy. I'm waiting for an approval on that before I cut the vinyl. So let's see what he has to say about it. His choice happened to be the T with the monogram, so that's what we're gonna go with. So I'm cutting this out of a rose gold vinyl. I'll get it centered on the tray. Then I'll apply a thin coat of epoxy so that we can start laying the flowers and the petals onto the tray. I have my vinyl cut and weeded, and I now have it on my transfer tape. And I found center of it already. Got a little hinge over here. That's how I'm going to apply it. And now I've measured my tray. And all I have to do is mark my center, and then we will apply this vinyl. All right, I have found my center on the piece itself, and there is our center. I have found my center at 7.5 and found my center at 5.5. So here we are, and I have measured both ends. Top to bottom. And we are ready to go ahead and take this off. I am using what's called the hinge method. I have tape down here, and I am carefully peeling this back now. Okay, so now I'm just going to carefully lay it down. There we go. So now we have the last name and the really pretty T on here. I did decide to add this little floral down on the bottom. With the way that the T sits, it almost seemed as though it was off center. And in measuring it, everything looked right, but I decided to add that anyway so that it was all even and looked it aesthetically. So now let's get that top coat over this, and then we'll be able to start placing our florals. I have my equal parts of A and B epoxy. I'm going to mix these together now, and then we are going to set a timer, and we are going to stir very slowly for about 15 minutes until this is clear. Then once that's ready, we can pour that in, let it sit for a few minutes, and then we'll start layering the flowers in and getting all the bubbles out. So let's start that timer. Our epoxy is fully mixed, and see how clear this is? And I was very careful not to incorporate bubbles into it. Now there are some, and we will pop those, but I did not vigorously stir it because I did not want to have a whole lot to have to worry about popping. So I'm going to take one more quick swipe with my microfiber cloth, and what we're going to do is just pour in enough that I can get the bottom of this covered. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's start laying out some florals. Well, this morning I uncovered it and I found that everything looks great with no bubbles, but I did have a lot of the flowers and the leaves still kind of sticking out. So I applied a pretty heavy coat of epoxy this morning and let that sit. So you can probably see here, I'm gonna have to do one more coat because I do have a couple of little things that are kind of still sticking out here. But I am so very pleased with how this has turned out. You can kind of see right there a few of the leaves and the flowers that are still outside of the epoxy. So later tonight, I'll probably mix up one more batch and put that on top of it, let that dry, and hopefully we're finished. We're gonna put the top coat on the tray today. And what I've bought is Amazing Clear Cast Plus. It has a UV protectant in it, so it should help keep it from turning yellow, but epoxies do finally yellow at some point. So this is just to help try and prevent this. So I have mixed up a little over a cup of my epoxy here. And I'm gonna get this all stirred up nice, and then we will pour it on. And hopefully this will be the final coat, and I can get this to my friend tomorrow. So let's get this to be looking clear. I've got a timer set for about 15 minutes. All right, I've got it all mixed. It's ready to go. And I just want to go over this real quick and make sure that I don't have any dust in it. I'm just going to take my heat gun. All right, so here we go. All right. We're going to do exactly what we've done before. We're going to just tilt it to each corner. Looks like I might have one more coat I'll have to do. I've got a couple of things right here. Get my heat gun on this. Okay, just put the final coat on here and it looks as though it is covering everything. Get all the bubbles out and we'll let this dry. All right, let's take this off and see what it looks like. Oh, wow. Get some light on this. Wow. This turned out amazing. This is gorgeous. I really think she's gonna love it. Well, I hope this is something that you will try at home. All you need is something to be able to put your epoxy in. Maybe a vinyl letter of some sort or a pretty picture. Flowers from a special occasion, or even some little trinkets. Could be anything really, because it would just depend on how high your little things are that you decide to put in here as to how deep your epoxy has to be. You'll need a heat gun and time and patience. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making this project. I'm absolutely thrilled, and I am positive that she's gonna love this. zip tie it, pull your loop up.